Autoline Daily is brought to you by Dow Automotive Systems, improving durability and increasing design flexibility with Betamate structural adhesives at dowbetamate.com.
Here are today's top headlines. The Ford Fiesta sells at a staggering rate in Europe. The Mazda RX-8 cannot meet European emission standards. And former Delphi CEO J.T. Battenberg is going on trial. Up next, we'll be back with the news behind the headlines. This is Autoline Daily for Thursday, April 15th, 2010. April 15th, the day that Abraham Lincoln died, the day the Titanic sank, the day your taxes are due, and the very day upon which I was born. And how the mighty have fallen. J.T. Battenberg III, the former chairman and CEO of the supplier company Delphi, is going to have to stand trial for securities fraud. Bloomberg reports that just before Delphi filed for bankruptcy, it sold off a bunch of inventory for more than $250 million, booking that as a sale, which inflated the company's earnings for the year 2000. The following quarter, it bought that inventory back for the very same price. Back when Delphi was the largest supplier in the world, JT, as everyone calls him, sort of appointed himself as the lead spokesman for the entire supplier industry. And he sure acted the part, too. Steve Miller, the executive who replaced him, accused JT of cooking the books. Bill Ford Jr., the chairman of the company that bears his name, says the U.S. government needs to provide subsidies for electric vehicles, Bloomberg reports. Bill Ford says that other countries, especially China, are heavily subsidizing electric cars and batteries, and that American automakers will be left out if the U.S. government doesn't do the same. Failure to develop a battery supply base would be a national security issue. Up to now, the Ford Motor Company has received $5.9 billion in government loans to retool plants for plug-ins and more fuel-efficient vehicles. Speaking of Ford, it was the #1 brand in Europe last month. Sales were up 16% from a year ago, hitting 192,500 units, and the Fiesta led the way with nearly 69,000 cars sold, which is the best month for any Ford model ever in Europe. And just to put that in perspective, that's nearly 30,000 more units than the sales of the Ford F-Series pickup in the American market last month. And speaking of Europe, Mazda cannot sell the RX-8 there anymore. We found it on The Truth About Cars, but Auto, Motor, and Sport reports that the car cannot meet Euro 5 emission standards due to its rotary engine. A replacement for that engine will not be ready until 2013 because of cost and time issues, so no RX-8s in Europe until they get that fixed. North Korea is purchasing Chinese vehicles to give away as gifts to government officials. According to Gasgoo, North Korea has purchased over 250 F3 and F6 models from BYD for more than $2 million. The vehicles are being given away to mid-level officials at North Korea's Prosecution and State Security Agency. Audi spilled the beans on its latest high-performance two-door. The RS5 Coupe packs a wallop with 450 horsepower from its 4.2-liter FSI V8. That should be enough to blitz from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4.6 seconds, although that is probably a conservative estimate. The engine is paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic and the latest version of Quattro all-wheel drive, which features a new center differential and torque vectoring. Audi's also pushing fuel efficiency, saying the car should average around 11 liters per 100 kilometers. That's roughly 22 miles per gallon. The RS5 Coupé should be available around the middle of the year with a base price of 77,000 euros. Hey, move over, Octomom. NASA is really making news, especially with the auto industry. Yesterday, we reported that the space organization had partnered with Chrysler for technology sharing. It's also looking for electronic glitches that might be the cause of Toyota's unintended acceleration problems. And now it's sending ROBONAUT 2, a robotic astronaut, to the International Space Station. The 300-pound humanoid was co-developed with General Motors and features movable arms and hands. R2, as he or maybe she is called, should be ready for liftoff in September aboard Space Shuttle Discovery. Coming up next, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the 2011 Ford Mustang. Ford is desperate to knock off the Chevrolet Camaro, which is handily outselling the Mustang right now. Last year, Ford restyled the car. This year, it's adding a number of other improvements. Craig Cole filed this report.
Ford completely overhauled its Mustang for 2010, giving it a new interior and a bunch of underbody changes. But believe it or not, the company is going even bigger and better for 2011. Ford tweaked the suspension. It significantly improved the fuel economy of the car. And of course, the company added a whole lot more power under the hood. And really, that's the biggest news for the car this year. Sure, Ford made a host of other changes, but these updates pale in comparison to the revolution that took place behind the pony emblem. Base Mustangs aren't just for rental fleets anymore. With a brand new 3.7-liter V6, they kick out 305 horsepower and 280 pound-feet of torque. For a little perspective, that's as much power as a 1998 Cobra. The engine is throaty sounding and quick, plus it delivers up to 31 miles per gallon on the highway. That's about 8 liters per 100 kilometers. Really, the 6 is all you need, but performance cars aren't about necessity, they're about desire, which is why Ford is offering an equally new V8. You already know the details: 5 liters, 412 horsepower, 390 torque, but numbers don't tell the whole story. The 5.0 is a total sweetheart. It's silky smooth and has lots of low-end power, but don't mistake it for a slow-revving truck engine.
Red line is up. We're at 7,000 RPM. In 2010, we were at 6,500 RPM with the 4.6. It was pretty much the limit of the engine. We have done extensive work on the breathing of this engine, both in the induction as well as the block, believe it or not, for ventilation of the block at the higher RPMs, as well as getting the oil to drain back into the sump as quickly as possible. Very capable at 7,000 RPM. Wonderful sound, wonderful engine note at 7,000 RPM.
The new V8 is a joy to drive, and making the experience even better is the fuel economy, up to 26 miles per gallon, or around 9.1 liters per 100 clicks. The newness spreads beyond the engine bay. Ford has made 6-speed transmissions standard. The automatic is smooth and shifts quickly, but if you prefer to do things yourself, the manual does not disappoint either. It's a little notchy, but the throws are very short and it feels solid in your hand. Beyond the drivetrain, the car received a bunch of other tweaks, including better brakes, a quieter cabin, and an upgraded suspension. All models still have an iron log propping up the back end, but you'd never guess. Ford has civilized the live axle to a point where an independent rear suspension is basically unnecessary. Driving that point home, the company set up an autocross course for back-to-back comparison tests. On this short track, the Mustang felt lighter and a lot smaller than some of its competition. Spicing things up, a performance package is available on V6-powered models. It includes a variety of Mustang GT parts, plus unique 19-inch wheels and a 331 rear end for even faster acceleration. The 2011 Ford Mustang will be arriving on dealer lots shortly. As for pricing, a base V6 car will sticker in the low 20s, while a loaded GT like this one right here in the low 40s. And you know, with a price like that, it would not look out of place in a driveway of one of these premium Malibu homes located behind me. Reporting from the Pacific Coast Highway for Autoline, I'm Craig Cole.
Thanks for that report, Craig. By the way, the power-to-weight ratio for the V6 Mustang is a very impressive 11.4 pounds per horsepower. The Mustang GT V8 comes in at only 8.9 pounds per horsepower, which explains why this car is so blindingly fast. Don't forget to tune in to Autoline After Hours tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our guest will be Walter McManus of the Transportation Research Institute from the University of Michigan. Walter has a ton of interesting information as to where the auto industry is headed. That's tonight at 7. And that's it for today's top news in the global automotive industry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.